morning and welcome to Higher Ground, an examination of some of the moral and ethical issues of the day. I'm your host, Carmen Fields. This morning we're talking about women's health in general and young women in particular. Let me share with you what for me is a startling statistic. Breast cancer for women under 40 is on the rise. In fact, the under 40 group is the only category of women where breast cancer rates are still climbing and typically are more aggressive and persistent to treatment or resistant to treatment. That's the bad news. The good news is that there are preventative strategies that teens and other young women can adopt that can influence overall health as an adult. My guest to walk us through some of the latest research and the latest recommended protection is Dr. Preteen Horner. Her book, Waking the Warrior Goddess, is recently released in its third edition, updated and expanded. You may remember Dr. Horner as the catalyst for the national crusade to pass laws requiring insurance companies to pay for breast reconstruction following mastectomy. A federal bill was signed into law by President Bill Clinton in 1998. Welcome to Higher Ground, Dr. Horner.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
And tell me a bit about Waking the Warrior Goddess. Tell me about that title.
Sure.
Where did that come from?
It's an unusual title
Yes.
of a breast cancer book, but it actually comes from training that I had in a system of medicine called Ayurveda. So I worked as a general surgeon and plastic surgeon and did a lot of breast reconstructive surgery and became very alarmed, as you just pointed out, that I was seeing younger and younger patients come into my office, and finally I was doing breast reconstruction on women in their 20s. And I thought, my goodness, I mean, there's something clearly wrong with this. So I started looking through the medical research to see what I could find, and I instantly found thousands of studies that show exactly why we have a breast cancer epidemic, all the things we're doing that is contributing to it, and the things that we traditionally don't do in this culture that are highly protective, and they are all natural. So food, supplements, herbs, and lifestyle choices. And these were none of the things I learned in medical school or my residency. And so that piqued my interest actually in natural health, and then all sorts of serendipitous things occurred where I got introduced to Ayurveda. So Ayur means life and Veda means knowledge. So it literally means knowledge of life. It's from the ancient area of the world, from India. Deepak Chopra talks about it. And basically what it tells us is all the rules there are really about being a human being, the natural laws, and what we need to do to follow those things to keep ourselves in balance and enliven our inner healing intelligence.
And that makes us a warrior goddess.
Well, you know, what I said was that, you know, this inner healing intelligence, instead of it being a abstract chemistry and physics in the body, that what we're really looking at is to think of it in a personal way, like your own warrior goddess in you. And when you bring your body into balance, you enhance that body's inner healing intelligence, and you become strong like a goddess.
Right. Now, tell me why the rates in younger women, do you think, are increasing, and why such an aggressive or stubborn variety of cancer?
Well, there's many different theories, and they have a lot to do with chemicals in our environment, with growth hormones that are injected into cows and other foods, you know, that we have. And so what we're seeing is that puberty is occurring at a younger and younger age. And so in the United States, the average age of puberty is now 10 years old. Around the world, it's 16 to 17 years old. Now, we could say, well, big deal, you know, why is that an issue? Well, the issue is that when a girl starts her periods at age 10, she's going to have more of them over her lifetime. So with each month, she's having a surge of a very strong kind of estrogen, which is the one that's most linked to developing breast cancer. And what they found is that if a girl starts her period at age 10, versus age 16, her risk of breast cancer will be 50% higher for the rest of her life. Now, the other thing that plays into it is once a girl goes through puberty, her breast cells are immature, and they are more sensitive to environmental toxins, to radiation, and even to bad foods, you know, that we consume. Now, one of the things that we know is that the breast cells traditionally don't mature unless you have a baby. So it's a long period of time where you can have a lot of sensitivity sensitivity to these environmental toxins. And one thing that research has shown, which is really amazing, is that, so in Asian cultures, we know that the incidence is very low. One of the reasons we think is because they eat a lot of tofu. So tofu has actually been shown in girls that are prepubescent, if they eat a lot of tofu, it will delay puberty, the onset of puberty, and if they continue to eat it when they're a teenager, it actually matures the breast cells and makes them more resistant to environmental toxins. So there's a 50% reduction in girls who eat tofu, prepubescent, and early teen years. Now, the thing about tofu that's so important.
Let's come back to that.
Okay, all right.
And continue this and talk more about diet, exercise, and some of the other lifestyle choices. But first, get your pens and your paper out. Our conversation will continue after some community calendar items that include some wonderful. Hi, we're back talking with my guest, Dr. Christine Horner, on addressing preventative strategies to fight breast cancer. Now, I had to interrupt you. We were talking about tofu, but diet, I think exercise from the book, and lifestyle are the three kind of pillars that you focus on. Continue, please.
Sure. One thing I just wanted to point out is that of all things that you get, tofu is like one of the most important to get organic. And that's because in this country, we genetically modify about 98% of the soy that's produced and spray the heck out of it. So I like a brand from Japan where they don't do the genetic modifications, and it's called Morinaga, and they actually cook it inside of this cardboard box, so it's hermetically sealed. They don't use any preservatives with it. It has great shelf life, and you can get it at places like Costco. So that's the brand that I recommend. So again, that's excellent for prepubescent and early teenage years, the most important time to take that. Now, as you mentioned, we have kind of three pillars as far as the things that we really need to pay attention to.
Well, let's start with diet. What's good and what's bad?
Sure. Okay. Exactly, that's what it all comes down to. So the good is plants. Yeah, kind of broadly plants, organically grown fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and omega-3 fatty acids. That will keep you incredibly healthy and reduce your risk of virtually every kind of chronic disorder, including breast cancer. The bad things are the processed foods, the junk foods. Sugar in particular is, one of the biggest culprits. It's the favorite food for cancer.
I think you have a chapter. Sugar is breast cancer's best friend?
No, I didn't say that.
Somebody.
A sweet friend in a bad disguise. But yeah, so that's the number one thing that really fuels the growth of breast cancer. So you want to stay kind of as pure as you can to what it would be like when we were, before we got so techie, and eat, mostly garden kind of fresh foods, going to farmers markets, that kind of thing. Best food you can consume.
So no sugar at all?
Ideally. Now, I recommend doing things like taking stevia, which is a South American plant. It comes as a liquid form or a powdered form, and using that instead. It has many health supporting properties rather than health detrimental properties.
Okay, let's move to exercise.
Sure.
We gotta get a bicycle, as my husband loves to do, or is walking, will that suffice? Or does it have to be strenuous? Or
there's great research on exercise, and while we're talking about young girls, what they found is if girls exercise with their teenagers, they have more of a protective effect on the risk of breast cancer than if they start exercising after age 20. So very important for teenagers to exercise. As adults, absolutely. Exercise is pure medicine for us, and not only does it improve cardiovascular issues, but it also reduces the risk of breast cancer. Brisk walking can reduce the risk by at least 30%. The more you exercise, the better it is. In fact, they found that women who rigorously exercise on a regular basis have up to an 80% reduction in breast cancer.
And for teens, exercise, organized sports?
Anything. Anything. So, I'm a big runner, weightlifter. I've always been a big athlete. And suddenly I just got so bored with everything that I was doing. And I thought, well, I want to do something that's fun. So I started dancing and playing tennis. So, it's important that you really enjoy what you're doing. That's the most important thing. And get your body moving.
And get off that sofa.
That's right. The sofa's a killer.
Now, the other portion or pillar was lifestyle. What do you mean?
Sure. So going to bed by 10 o'clock, for instance, there's huge statistical data on going to bed by 10 o'clock and getting up by 6 as the optimal hours for us to sleep. In fact, if you stay up to midnight on a regular basis, they found that heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and certain cancers are doubled just by staying up that late. And it all has to do with our hormonal balances. So that's a simple, free thing, that
So it's
you
not
can do.
about the number of hours, it's the time frame as well?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both. Yes. So they found 7 hours is ideal, and then the time frame is going to bed by 10 o'clock. Yes. Yeah.
Any other lifestyle
Sure.
issues?
So stress, plays a huge role, and so stress.
No avoiding that.
No avoiding that. So it's really important to do daily stress-reducing techniques such as meditation. Even breathing exercises can help to lower our stress response and reduce cortisol, which is that damaging stress hormone. Now, one of the things, all of those things kind of play in the same way, where what they do is they slug our immune system. So stress will slug our immune system. Eating sugar slugs our immune system, too. 90% of the cells are knocked out for 5 hours after eating a sugary meal. So keeping your immune system strong, extremely important. And one of the tricks is actually eating mushrooms. So mushrooms are things that can help to support the immune system. There's certain ones that are standouts. And shiitake mushrooms, for instance, even button mushrooms have some great, anti-cancer effects to it. But the realistic thing is, are you going to eat mushrooms every day? No. So certain things, this is when it's beneficial to take a supplement. So one of my favorite ones is this one called AHCC. And AHCC stands for active hexose correlated compound, which is why we call it AHCC.
I'll try to remember.
It's out of Japan too. And it actually is one of the #1 complementary and alternative medicine techniques used in Japan, because there's hundreds of studies on it showing that it helps to lower the risk of many different kinds of cancers, including breast cancer, and they prescribe it to patients in the hospital that have cancer because the survival statistics are so much better. The other thing I just like to mention, with AHCC is, as teenagers, we're giving our teenagers that vaccine for the Hpv virus.
Yes.
So I started doing research into this, early on. It was horrified at the statistics with it, where it is got more reported side effects to it than any vaccine that's ever been, given in the history of the world. There's been 171 deaths associated with it, and physical disabilities and neurological problems. And it doesn't last. I mean, it only lasts for like 5 years, and that's it. So there was a study that was done at MD Anderson, the big cancer hospital in Houston recently, on AHCC and the Hpv virus, and they found that it killed the Hpv virus and prevented the infections from occurring.
So diet can be used to
yes, or
avoid
instead of taking that vaccine, you could do the AHCC, which helps your teenager with their immune system. But this is something that's good for any age and really helps to support your immune system and keep it healthy.
We'll continue, but first a musical interlude featuring the women's a cappella group Essence. They are performing We Are. We'll be back.
For each child that's born, I'm born.
Dr. Preteen Horner, MD, the author of Waking the Warrior Goddess. It's a program to protect against and fight breast cancer. I'd like to give you, before we continue the talk, some additional information. For more information and a free video about Dr. Horner's work, you can log on to www.drpresteenhorner.com. Also, WHDH is a proud sponsor of the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk that is held annually in the fall, usually in October. For more information and to sign up, here is the info. Boston, Mass, or MA, Strides at cancer.org, and the phone number is there, 888-227-2345. And finally, the annual Avon Walk Against Breast Cancer is usually held in the spring. For more information, check out www.avonwalk.org or call 888-540-WALK. Dr. Horner, we were talking about lifestyle and some of the issues and the importance of liquids in our diets.
That's right.
And what's the good and the bad of that?
The good is pure water. That's what we've been drinking here.
Okay.
Pure water is the best that you can possibly do.
8 glasses a day, more, less?
Depends on how much activity you're doing, your body size, and so forth. So it's not, there's not like a one size fits all with that. But just to stay hydrated is extremely important. Green tea. Really good as far as the health benefits and great anti-cancer effects.
Not black cohosh?
Not black cohosh, green tea.
Green tea,
green
okay.
tea. Yeah, that's our health drink. Now, I do have a wine glass here, not that we're sharing a glass afterwards, but because what I'm talking about.
We're not?
No. So, you know, what they found is there's an actual direct linear relationship between the number of glasses of alcohol a day that a woman drinks and her risk of breast cancer. So one drink increases the risk by 11%, 2 drinks by 22 to 40%, 3 drinks by 33 to 70%. Why is that? When we drink alcohol, it increases estrogen. Does the same thing in men. So male alcoholics actually have a higher incidence of breast cancer.
Now, is one better than the other? White, red, Zinfandel, what have you?
Doesn't make any difference. Okay. Now, before you hate me, now I'll give you a reason to love me, right?
Okay.
So what the researchers did is they found all the ways that alcohol is damaging to our system, and one of the things they found is that it disrupts a B vitamin called folate or folic acid. So these researchers said, okay, let's give these women some folic acid supplements and have them drink alcohol, and let's see what happens. Most of the ill effects went away. For 1 to 2 glasses, not above, above 2. So doing 3 is not ever good, but 1 to 2. If you're going to have, a glass of wine now and again, then you take 400 micrograms of folic acid to counteract the ill effects.
What about any other vitamin supplements that might be helpful?
Sure. In general, we feel if you eat mostly a vegetarian type diet with lots of plants, you don't really need a vitamin supplement, but you can. All the vitamins are important for us. In particular, for breast cancer, they found that vitamin A has a lot of anti-cancer effects with it. Vitamin E does, and vitamin D. So there's been huge research on vitamin D showing that women who have breast cancer generally are low in vitamin D, and that if you give supplemental vitamin D to, and they follow people into the future, which is where we get the best information, they found that their incidence of breast, prostate, and colon cancer was cut in half. Okay. So very important.
D is, last but not least, any tools for detection? What's happening? What's the research saying? Typically for women, the breast self-exam. Are there other
There are. I'm going to mention one other thing, which is probiotics.
Okay.
Just because it helps with the immune system so much, and this one is the BB536 is what it's called, but it's a human strain, and it helps to populate your colon with healthy bacteria and improves the immune system and many other health issues too. So anyway, that's great. Now, going to how to detect. The best thing to do is to use ultrasounds. So we have more sophisticated ultrasounds that they don't use radiation like mammography. We do thermography, which is an infrared picture of the breast. It shows the physiology of the breast, not the anatomy. It's showing the heat and blood vessel patterns. And we can show things that change before you get tumor formation. And by changing your diet and lifestyle and taking some nutritional supplements, you can reverse those changes in 8 to 12 weeks. And physical exams, 70% of breast cancers are found by physical examination. And those can all be used on people no matter what age, all the young girls. Mammograms aren't appropriate probably until you're 50 years old, and there's a lot of controversy about them right now, calling them into question.
But stay in close contact with your physician.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. Well, that is it for this edition of Higher Ground. Thank you, Dr. Horner,
You're
for this
welcome.
very informative conversation on a very important health topic. I will close with the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who reminds us you can never do a kindness too soon, for we never know how soon it will be too late. The music you're about to hear is from cellist Bathia Israel, who's the founder and director of a group called City Strings. Have a blessed day and see you next time on Higher Ground.